WWE Wrestlemania 19, released in 2003 for the Nintendo Gamecube, courtesy of THQ and Ukes, is the follow-up to the previous year's WrestleMania X8 video game, which was a perfectly acceptable professional wrestling sports entertainment video game product, but not one without its issues. WrestleMania 19 builds on its predecessor by dropping all the single-player modes of the previous game. No Path of a Champion, no Battle for the Belts, or anything resembling what one would constitute a proper season or career mode. Instead, you've got something different, in the Revenge mode, which we'll get to later. But if you don't want something different, you still have the King of the Ring, which is more of a tournament-style format that doesn't really mean anything. And you still have the Exhibition mode, which is just a quick match of various types and stips, your usual match types. Singles, tag team, tornado tag, triple threat, fatal four-ways, Royal Rumbles, tables, ladders, TLC, steel cage, hardcore, Iron Man, First Blood, and Hell in a Cell. Don't worry if you don't have any clue as to what any of these pertain to be. You'll be clued in eventually because there is also a tutorial mode, where you can have former WWE superstar and Eternal Foley punching bag Al Snow teach you how to play the game and verbally abuse you if you fuck these lessons up, which is always a highlight.
No good!
WrestleMania 19 boasts about 45 superstars to play with, and they're all available from the start. A fairly small roster pool for the time. For comparison's sake, both WWE Raw 2 on Xbox and SmackDown Here Comes the Pain on PlayStation 2, which were released within the same year, boasted well over 60 superstars in total. Now I am fibbing the number here a bit because WrestleMania does have another 20 unlockable players you could unlock, but I don't count those for reasons we shall get into right now actually. Like I said before, WrestleMania 19 doesn't have a proper season/career mode that you would find in other WWE games like the early SmackDown games. Instead, what we have is a story mode called Revenge Mode, and it's a somewhat unique little beast. You pick a WWE superstar, you get thrown out of WWE by security due to your contract having just expired, and nobody's offering best wishes in all your future endeavors, which I'm guessing isn't far off from how WWE handles their releases these days, due to budget cuts. And so now you're tasked by Stephanie McMahon, because of course you are, and she's actually talking in my ears, so I'm not bleeding, so that's a good thing, I guess. To try and sabotage WWE programming by wrecking stuff as part of your revenge or something. And that's the whole deal. You pick various locations, you're given a set of missions involving performing certain feats, and once a mission is cleared, you're given some SmackDown money to spend in the Shop Zone, which features a bunch of parts and gimmicks for the Create a Wrestler feature. And once all missions in a certain location is cleared, said location is available in the Exhibition mode that you could play, and each location has their own wacky stipulation in order to win. And if you manage to complete the entirety of Revenge Mode, you'll unlock all the geeks to be played in the other modes available under the boss table. And like I said, all the unlockables are basically random geeks. Geeks you could easily recreate in the Create a Wrestler feature, which is a thing and it's fine, I guess. Revenge Mode is certainly unique for a WWE title if nothing else, and is best described as a better playing version of the old EA classic on the PlayStation, WCW Backstage Assault. Nobody is going to get... Backstage Assault is a horrible game, people. It's a fucking horrible game. And Revenge Mode only plays like a slightly better version of Backstage Assault. Or maybe it's a souped up version of that WWF Betrayal game that was on the Game Boy Color ages ago, which was also pretty bad. And now I see why some people hate this mode, and to tell the truth, I didn't mind it for a little bit at first, but it did get boring after a while, and quite frankly, you know, it kind of made me wish I was playing a proper season mode with more worthwhile rewards to be unlocked instead of a whole bunch of geeks. But, I don't know. Whatever. Fuck. It's something I don't know. Whatever. Some people will like it, others won't. I'm like, whatever. As it pertains to the gameplay, well, it's roughly similar to the previous WrestleMania game. A somewhat simplistic control scheme that fits with the GameCube controller. with the play mechanics being a cross between the faster-paced SmackDown series and some aspects of the older Aki games, such as the spirit glow on top of your wrestler's name that changes to a reddish color as you're getting hot, or bluish or eventually dark as you're taking a brutal beating and get a little more tired as a result. Some actions, such as Irish whips and such, require you press 2 buttons, which fits the GameCube controller well enough, and it works well enough. I think it's playable, if nothing else. With that in mind, if the controls team and the gameplay didn't do it for you in the previous game, I doubt there's much here that will change your mind. There's a couple new additions here, notably visual cues letting you know which buttons or sticks to press in order to reverse or recover from blows, and you could turn these indicators off if you want. But there's also an additional mechanic where you build up your meter to stock up on special moves, much like the previous game. But when you press A and B, which normally signifies your special move, you'll perform a super taunt, which will electrify your heads-up display, during which time you'll be given heightened abilities, as well as be able to perform your wrestler's finisher. I don't know why they did this, I guess as a callback to the old Aki games, but those games just flash the spirit meter and not supercharge it with energy. It's a funny visual if nothing else, but yeah. Visually speaking, I'm inclined to say that WrestleMania 19 matches the overall graphical quality of its predecessor. The various arenas you'll wrestle in, all 5 of them, look pretty good and even have some nice lighting so they don't look like they were filmed in the dark, so that's actually a step up. The entrances are similar to those on TVs, and the superstars actually look a little better here. Not great, but a lot less plasticky compared to the previous game. As far as the backstage settings are concerned, they look fine, and the camera angles used for certain spots are adequate at best. WrestleMania 19 sounds like, well, just like any other WWE game released in 2003, and I don't just say that dismissingly. All 3 games released during this time, WrestleMania 19, WWE Raw 2 on Xbox, and SmackDown Here Comes the Pain on PlayStation 2, all share a number of generically generic sounding stock background music. I guess it was just cheaper to make the one generic soundtrack and just share the tracks all around. Fair enough, I suppose. Sound effects are fine, as are the few vocal performances featured in this game, which is saying something, I suppose, when the Queen of Ear Rape shows up and actually doesn't rape my ears. Truly a miracle here at WrestleMania 19 for GameCube. Overall, WrestleMania 19 is a thing that exists. Not to say that it's a bad game, because it really isn't. The gameplay is solid, you've got plenty of match types and backstage areas to fiddle around with, and as is usually the case with these wrestling games, makes for a fun little multiplayer thing, which is usually where it's best at. The smaller roster pool and lack of proper arenas hurts the game somewhat, especially since a lot of the focus is on the new Revenge mode, which, while certainly a more involved story mode compared to the previous game, is not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and the rewards you earn is simply not worth the effort. On a whole, WrestleMania 19 is a better game compared to its predecessor, and certainly one worth checking out, but falls short of being truly great.